Hello everyone and welcome to Lexicon Tutorials. This is a new collab channel which I and some other young people from different parts of the world have created, and our common interest is languages, so that is what our videos are going to be about. Each of us are going to upload videos which will be like language lessons where we teach our mother tongues to each other and to anyone who would like to learn them. My name is Sissel and I'm from Sweden. I'm not blonde, but I'm in fact Swedish, and Swedish is my mother tongue, the language that I will teach, the language that was the first thing I heard when I was born into this world, and it was my first medium through which I could express my thoughts, and it was through the Swedish language that I first became interested in poetry and literature and the written word. So it's quite a special language for me, and I'm very happy if you want to learn it. And I think it's very understandable if you don't, because it isn't a very significant language globally. But if you like languages and language learning, it's worth giving it a try. And I will try my best to help you with that in my videos. The first thing that you may wonder when you are thinking about a new language is, of course, where can I use it? Where can I travel? With whom can I speak? And these things. And I have to admit that Swedish isn't really a language that opens up to the big world in the same sense as, for instance, English does. It is quite limited to this area here, Sweden, my country, and some Swedish-speaking parts of Finland over here. And, well, you can see it's located in the northern parts of Europe. If you compare with other countries here, you can see that these countries are quite big. But that doesn't say much because they aren't very densely populated, neither Sweden nor its neighbours. So all in all, there is only about 10 million people who speak Swedish as their native tongue. But I guess that exceeds the number of people that you can possibly speak to during your lifetime, so you won't run out of people to use the language on. But, I mean, it's very limited. But if you like nature and quietness, and if you would like to travel here in the northern parts of Europe, then it's a good language to know. And it is possible to travel through Sweden with English as a lingua franca without encountering any major communication obstacles. But that would be quite boring, because perhaps you would feel a little like an outsider if you didn't know the local language in the area. If you have some good knowledge of Swedish, you'll be able to read both Norwegian and Danish texts and get most of the content without learning anything extra, and you'll be able to understand clearly spoken standard Norwegian. And if you want, you can easily advance and learn the words that differs and the differences in pronunciation, and learn Danish as well. And you have a very good foundation for that if you already know Swedish. And here I show this with some sample sentences in the three languages, and if you want you can compare them word for word, and you will see that it is really just variations of the same words. And if you know this language, Swedish, and you just have some imagination, you'll figure out what all these words mean. And the sentence in English is, "Hello, what's your name? I'm from," and then the nationality. So here it is, "Hello, what's your name? I'm from Norway," and yes, I'm from Sweden, I'm from Denmark. One thing that you may wonder is how difficult is it to learn Swedish, and it really depends on what languages that you know to start with. And here you can see just a crude illustration of the relationship between the Indo-European languages here. If you follow the Germanic branch here, you'll see that English and Swedish are quite similar, and if you understand what I'm saying now, it proves the point that you already have some knowledge of English. So if you have that, you will really recognize some words, and the structure is very similar as well, since it is so closely related. And then Swedish has been sort of a living language that has imported and exported words, more imported perhaps than exported, but the point is that you can recognize a lot of words that you have seen in English and in your own language, from French, from Latin, from German, from Greek, and from a lot of languages. So yes, you'll recognize a lot. Since it is closely related to the other Germanic languages, we have the same alphabet as well. We have the same alphabet as in English, the Latin alphabet, and we only had just 3 additional letters that differs. And these are the 3 last letters in our alphabet. So O, Ä, Ö. And these 2 you'll recognize if you already have studied German, or if that's your mother tongue, as the umlaut. The difference between German and Swedish is that in Swedish these letters are seen as not as umlaut but as distinctive letters, and this one is quite Scandinavian letter, I think. You can recognize it from the other Scandinavian languages as well. And the grammar in Swedish is quite simple, actually. We have dropped the inflection depending on which person for our verbs. We have dropped the cases, and we had 3 genders, and we have merged 2 of them together, the masculine and feminine gender, so that we only have 2, common and neuter. And yes, so here is just an example of that, of a verb, a very common verb, to be. And in Swedish that is att vara. Att vara eller inte vara, det är frågan. And that's a Swedish translation of a very famous English quote, and I hope you'll understand what that was. So here you can see I am, you are, and so on and so forth. The verb changes, and here in Swedish, jag är, du är, han är, hon är, han är, sorry. Det, den är, det är, den är. Vi är, ni är, det är. It doesn't change at all. One thing that you may think seem a little strange is this thing here. Why is it 2 it? Isn't it enough with 1 it? No, it isn't, because we have still our 2 genders, or yes, sort of, the common and neuter. And that is why we have these 2. Here you can see the feminine, the masculine, and the rest. These 2 groups, they have merged and become 1. So for them we use the article n, and the rest, they are the neuter ones, and for them we use et. So these are the common nouns, and these are the neuter. So you don't really have to bother whether they are feminine or masculine. You just have to say n for them and et for these. And there aren't really any rules about this. These tend to be more sort of abstract, and these are like people and animals. They are often n, but you can't really depend on any rules. It's quite arbitrary, so you just have to learn the article with the noun when you learn them. So here you can see how you use this, and here is a flower and a tree, and you perhaps recognize these pronouns, du, jag. So this is, I have a flower, it's beautiful. You have a tree, and it's beautiful. And you can see which words that changes because of the noun, whether it's common or neuter. So here you can see it's very arbitrary. Why is a flower either feminine or masculine, and a tree is neither? I mean, doesn't really make sense, but that is how it is. And now you have learnt that, so that's a good start. And jag har, here's the verb to have, and here's the article, and you see that is in red because that changes. En blomma, ett träd. And here you have the pronoun. You remember the pronoun that is the Swedish equivalent for it. And here is den, det. So for the neuter it becomes det. For the common it becomes den. And here's the verb that we had, to be, att vara, är. Den är, det är. And here you have an adjective. And I mark that in red as well, because here it becomes an extra T in the end, and here it doesn't. So, den är fin, det är fint. And one thing that I think some people think is a little intimidating is that it is sort of a tonal language, and we change the pitch when we speak, and I can't hear that, but some people say that it sounds like we are singing instead of speaking, and I guess I do this in English as well, so you can probably hear that. But and some people think that this makes it very difficult to really learn the language and to speak like a native speaker, but I think that it is as difficult as any language. And if you just listen to the language a lot and have some practice, it will come naturally. And in the beginning you'll maybe feel a little self-conscious when maybe you'll feel like mocking the Swedish speakers or something when you sort of change the pitch in a way that you feel sounds completely unnatural and just mental. But yes, you just have to go through that, and then you'll have a better pronunciation. And if you keep a little of your own melody, it isn't really a big deal. And you can hear that I have a sort of Swedish intonation when I speak English, so if you have your own intonation just a little bit when you speak Swedish, that is just okay. And I think you can't really make so many mistakes, really communication mistakes, if you have the wrong pitch. And you just have a very few minimal pairs where it really matters whether you start on a low pitch or a high pitch. So, I mean, the worst thing you can do is to say the duck instead of the spirit or something like that. But there is no difference in spelling, so we have to figure that out from the context anyway when we are reading. So why wouldn't we be able to do that when we are listening to someone who can't really do this with the pitches yet? One thing that I really like with the Swedish language is that it is very creative, and you can easily create compound words. So if you learn Swedish, you just have the building blocks, and you can create and contribute to the language as much as you want. So it's like German. It isn't like that in English, unfortunately, because in English it's like, in order to make a word written together, like a compound word, then it has to be very, very common. But in Swedish you just can stack any words together. And I don't know, I think it's possible to create very poetic or very funny words with that. So yes, I really like that. And you can do this with both verbs and adjectives and nouns. Nouns is the most common thing, I guess. But you can take small singing, sort of. This is an adjective and this is a verb. And this becomes one word, like that. Or you can have nouns. Lövsal. It's like leaf and hall. So if you walk in a forest and if the crowns of the trees make sort of an arched roof like that, or an arched ceiling, however it becomes like a leaf hall. And I think that's everything that I have for now. And well, if you have any questions, you can just ask me, and I think in the future I will have both basic and advanced lessons. Basic, where I use English as a lingua franca, and advanced, where I just speak Swedish, for you who are a little more fluent in the language. And yes, and I'm open to any requests that you have. So if you wonder something, or if you just want me to have a lesson about something, then you can just post that or write that in the comments. So that would be great. and thank you for watching this, and bye.